when your energy is effed up, stay off the apps. I love it when a person comes out of being really burned from a relationship, especially when the heartbreak is just, they still feel it. They visualize it. They're like, I never want to be with anyone. I'll be celibate for the rest of my life. I'm like, you're ready. It's perfect. This is why.
Well, today's guest is going to blow you out of the water. Adora Aiza, referred to many as the queen goddess of energy, a multifaceted, energetic alchemist and empowerment advocate. Can you take us through, for somebody who's like fresh and raw in their heartbreak, what's something that they could actually do after they listen to this?
Oh my goodness.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your oasis, your destination to be all things just a little bit more brave. Brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And I have a question for you. Have you been through a heartbreak? Have you been through the era of loneliness? Or maybe you're just trying to find out how you can become more magnetic. Well, today's guest is going to blow you out of the water. I have a dear friend and somebody who I am just beyond magnetized by every time I'm in her presence. Her name is Adora Aiza, referred to many as the queen goddess of energy, a multifaceted, energetic alchemist and empowerment advocate. Adora intertwines music, quantum mechanics, principles, and timeless rituals to guide individuals toward power couple relationships aligned with their soul's desires and life's purpose. Her work, known for amplifying people's magnetism, fosters meaningful connections and cultivates a love that resonates with the core of one's being. In her latest book, Love Resolutions 2024, Adora shares insights and strategies for anybody who has been through heartbreak, for anyone who is longing for love, for anyone who keeps going on the dating rat race and seems like they're not getting anywhere. And I am so excited to bring her on the Brave Table today. In fact, when we first met, I saw her on stage at a global event that we were both part of. And I was just, I was hooked. I was like, who is this queen? And every room she would go into, she would just magnetize the room, not just with her amazing outfits or her incredible hair, but it was her energy. And so in this episode today, this is for you because we explore what it means to be in heartbreak, what it means to sit in heartbreak, how to actually transform it, how to know what you don't want in other future relationships. And for those who are actually in long-term relationships, what is the secret sauce to keeping the fire alive? And finally, how to become a magnet for others. Well, without further ado, let's bring on Adora Aiza to the Brave Table this week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neeta. I am very happy to be here. Also, when I first saw you and met you, I said, wow, who is that? And I remember I met Ajit first. And, you know, everyone said that he was married, but he just seemed like, you know, just kind of like a very quiet guy who goes about his business. And he always speaks so profoundly. And I'm like, I wonder what his wife is like. And then when I met you, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then I realized that some of the way that he's able to articulate himself with people is because he has peace with his wife and he has someone who's there and this partner in life with him. And I think that a part of what I'm doing with helping couples and relationships is to form what you guys have. It's such a beautiful thing. And you're also very magnetic and you're doing things and you're helping people. And it's just such a great pleasure and honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you, love. Thank you. I received that. And I know today is all about you. And you have had quite the journey to come here all the way from Milano to Austin, Texas. So welcome.
Yeah.
And so I want to get into it because how does someone like you become the queen of energy? I want to go back into that origin story.
Oh my goodness. So I think that like most gifts, right? They start off with a child who's misunderstood. It starts off with someone who has so much energy, so much to express, so much love, and it just comes out and explodes everywhere. And I think that me becoming this kind of known as the queen goddess of energy, which is so funny, but I'm starting to embrace it a bit. But people have been saying that because as I started to learn that I needed to master it and understand how to use it with intention. And, you know, they say that when you have when you have like love without some kind of compassion or honesty, without having this filter of making sure that you delicately handle things, then it's just it's too much. It's a surge and it fries people. So this energy journey for me has happened since I was a little girl with ADD and just being so full of life and wanting to connect and love and learning how to.
Are you the only child?
So that's a twofold question. I'm an only child to my mother.
Okay.
So I have many only child tendencies, many of thinking that the world revolves around me sometimes and forgetting that other people exist. While at the same time, I grew up with 2 different fathers who each have 6 other children.
Oh, wow.
So it was the extreme on both sides. So I'm completely like insignificant and begging for attention while also being used to getting all the attention when I was home with my mother. So I kind of like drift between the 2 parallels.
Well, and I love this because for somebody who grew up as an only child, but then also had all of these other siblings, I can see wanting to have that pull, now having my own children as well, and the energetic dynamics with just my 2 kids. And so take us back to like a little, Adora, because I want to double click on something that you just shared around being able to really understand energy and not to, I think you just use a really profound word, but not to, if you overdo it, you might burn somebody with all that energy. And so because you are now the queen of energy, how have you seen and even now teach other people how to manage their energy, especially when we're dating?
I think that what happens is that it's about being self-aware. The book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others, as well as Emotional EQ. I remember the first time I read that book, and afterwards I just sat there for about 10 minutes realizing that I had no emotional intelligence. Not because I didn't recognize when people were feeling things, but because I felt like I needed to express myself. And that also happens in relationships. Sometimes we overcharge relationships, or like we meet someone new and we go crazy with all of this love, showing our excitement, thinking about the future, because we forget about the component of the person receiving it. So I think about, if you imagine,
do you think that would scare people away?
Oh my goodness, it would scare people away. It would scare anyone away. But the reason why is, if you imagine that you have like electricity, right? You need the right amount of electricity to power anything, to power a house, to power a phone. The amount of electricity that it takes to power a phone is different than the amount of electricity that it takes to power the house. And by learning to understand your own power and understanding the amount of energy needed for what you're trying to get, like energy for a relationship is different than energy for a job. Understanding that and just being self-aware and asking yourself questions, it's trial and error. And then you can find the right way to balance your energy and really master it to be what you want it to be.
I mean, you do this so well. And so let's get into the book. So why love resolutions 2024?
Love resolutions because a lot of people are afraid of making love resolutions. They make resolutions about going to the gym, about many things that they want to upgrade in the new year. But they feel taboo. Like, if I speak about love, if I admit that I want to be in a loving relationship, if I admit that I'm ready to feel better after this heartbreak from the holidays where my parents hated the person that I brought home, then it will mess up everything for me. There's this taboo about it. So it's love resolutions because it's time for us to start resolving how we deal with relationships, how we deal with heartbreak, and showing up as better versions of ourselves.
Well, and I love one of the quotes in there. Love is not finding someone to live with. It's finding someone you can't imagine living without.
Yes.
And do you think it's possible to have, after a breakup, because I'm just like recalling when I had a really profound breakup and divorce. And for a while I was like, nope, shop is closed. There's no way I am not dating another person. I am just like, no way, no how. And I think I was jaded. And I think a lot of times you know, the feelings of being jaded just have you kind of like cocoon a little bit and winter and just only want to be by yourself and not even trust that dating is even a possibility. So how do you work with people in kind of like getting them out from feeling stuck?
This is actually my favorite type of person to work with.
Oh, me?
The person,
a former version of myself.
I love it when a person comes out of being really burned from a relationship, especially when the heartbreak is just, they still feel it, they visualize it, and they're like, I never want to be with anyone. I'll be celibate for the rest of my life. I'm like, you're ready. It's perfect. This is why, because it's a yes and. From an energetic standpoint, they shouldn't cut themselves off, because when you block the energy, then you have this time where you become demagnetized, and now you're repelling everyone around you, and energy flows in a way where it doesn't matter. Maybe you're saying no to relationships, but when you say no to relationships, you're also saying no to other things, because energy doesn't think about where it's going. It's just flowing where you push it. So I tell people, be open to meeting people to learn what you want. It's the best time, because right after that horrible heartbreak, your standards grew exponentially. All of a sudden, you knew exactly what you wouldn't put up with, and you were close enough to the relationship that hurt you where you weren't desperate. Sometimes when a person's been single for a long time, they forget how bad that heartbreak was. And then they're like, oh, you know, I can deal with a little bit of crazy, or I can deal with being called once a week. It's okay. And they start to settle. But when that relationship first breaks your heart and you're sitting there in the pain and you can't stop thinking about someone that you know isn't good for you, then your standards when you meet someone new is you're upfront. You're saying, no, these are my no's, these are my yeses. And you're ready to really find out what you want. So I say, keep being out there, keep your magnetism going, because it'll also bring other opportunities. You never know what can happen. And then from there, you're able to just shift and point yourself in the right direction. And then, like, right after breakups, how many people fall in love right after a breakup? They meet that person because their energy is open, but also with standards that call in something greater than what they had before.
So I love this perspective. And what do you actually define magnetism as? Is it the same as energy? How would you distinguish the two?
So energy, to break it down, sorry if I get too scientific, there are a few different components, because I really look into physics to understand some of the things that we have in our natural life when it comes to emotions and things. So we have an energetic field. All of us, around us, everywhere we go, there's this field of energy. Now, if the energy field is charged in a certain way, then it's attracting things to us.
It's kind of like you and I
Yes.
getting attracted to each other at one of those parties.
I was like, oh my goodness, who's that beautiful woman? Look at her hair and her clothes, and she's so smart, and she's intelligent, and she's a doctor. Wow. Yeah. So what happens is we can either pull things into us, or we can repel things out within our energy field. Magnetism is how you are pulling things in. Right? So it's putting you in a state where instead of repelling things, saying, oh, I'm not worthy, or I suck, or the world is horrible, or I only like cats, not people, you change your energy so that you're magnetizing. You're saying, I'm open. I want to receive. I'm here to learn what I do like and what feels good.
I'm here to receive.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because it seems like for many people who are braving relationships and braving coming out of the woodwork and braving going on dates again and wanting to find that particular lover, relationship person, or even rekindle some of their lost relationships in a long-term relationship. Now, for someone who's getting started and they're like, okay, how do I even be a magnet? How do I become a magnet? What are like the 2 or 3 steps that somebody can take to like get started in their becoming a magnet journey?
So there are so many components which I dive into. I think that understanding first what you want, right? Understanding the clarity of knowing what you want, and then realizing what you want exists. That's why I'm now speaking to couples to show that these amazing couples that do good things in the world, where it feels good to come home year after year, even when they have fights and arguments, that these types of couples exist. Most people don't believe that the relationship that they want can even exist. And then they don't believe that the partner that they want exists. So the steps would be, first, understanding what you want, recognizing that what you want exists somewhere in the universe. Then it's also understanding that that thing that you want wants you too. And aligning yourself to just be open. And then once you're open, then that energy starts to shift within you, and you'll see greater opportunities, better prospects coming your way.
And how do you speak to those who kind of have a self-sabotage? And so they're like, okay, Adora, I'm doing all the steps in the book, because the book is very well written and it's such an easy read. Like, I mean, I consume
it's
this
short
and
on purpose.
Like, it's short on purpose. Well, I mean, a lot of us have ADHD, and I think we just want the guidelines right away. And I love that you break this down in, I have the book here if you're watching this on YouTube. It's short and it's sweet for a reason.
Yes.
To have kind of like in your little back pocket.
Yes.
Like a little love Bible to pull out to just give you that strength and, just the compassion for yourself. So I love the way that it's laid out. Yet this self-saboteur because I remember even in my early days of getting out there back in the dating ring, and I'm like, okay, I was doing all of these things, yet I couldn't believe that it was true. And then I tried to find the craziest thing. I'm like, oh, that's a red flag. That's a red flag, And so I know that people on the break table who are listening are kind of like, yup, I was doing the same too. I'm doing the same. So does that mean that we're blocking our energy?
Yes, it absolutely does. And remember I said my favorite type of client is the one who's in the middle of the heartbreak. And the one where I sometimes feel like I want to choke them with love is the saboteur. It's the one who believes that they have these very high standards. I had one person came to me for activation, and she's like, my whole life I've had these very high standards, and I keep finding little things that I shouldn't like a guy for, and I push him away for the simplest stuff because I have very high standards. And when we went deeper into it, I said, you actually don't have standards at all. Because she doesn't actually believe that what she wants can exist, all of the standards that she believed she had were disqualifiers to not waste her time. It was this superiority kind of complex of like, well, he needs to prove himself to me, and they need to do this. And it becomes it becomes very detached from their energy and more about checking off the boxes of what they think that they need to have to look cool in front of other people, or in order to please their parents, or something else going on in their life. So energetically, if you're sabotaging yourself, it means, people may be upset with me for saying this, if you're sabotaging, you don't actually know what you want. Because when you know what you want, then it becomes an energetic thing, and you're not necessarily looking for the height or the profession. But if that's something that deep down you really want, you won't have to ask for it. It's just what you will attract. We attract what deep down we believe that we deserve, and what we're aligned with, and what we're harmonizing with. So if you're sabotaging, sit down and say, have I actually upheld my standards? Am I giving people a chance who don't make me feel good? Because usually the person didn't make you feel good first, and then you started nitpicking all the other things.
So what I'm hearing is it starts out by understanding the feelings that you want to actually have in a relationship, in a partner.
Yes, they need to know how they want to feel, right? So I tell people date energy, which is, if you meet someone, right, go out with them if you like their energy. because you never know. Like if they make you laugh, if they make you smile, go out with them just to see how you react in that energy. And then you can say, well, I hope they have a cousin that looks better, you know, or, you know, like, or I hope that this person has a better job or something. But being in that energy where you feel good, you find out what you like. If you're sabotaging, there's a part of your inner being that's actually protecting you because there's something else there that your inner being knows it's not resonating with you. And the sabotaging of the little things is just you trying to make sense of why it feels off. So find out what you really want and go out with the people who make you feel good and make you feel the way that you want to feel.
Because ideally then you're amplifying more of that feeling.
Yes.
And when you're amplifying more of that feeling, what tends to happen?
When you okay, I'll give you an example. So there's this one girl that I met, and she was amazing, and she was ready. She was ready for a relationship. You could just feel the energy. She wasn't settling. She had standards. They were clear. She did have some preferences about how guys looked, but she's like, you know, I want to be a partner. I want to feel like my best version of myself. I want to feel like when my family sees me with him, they say, wow, you're still being your authentic self. And I said to her, okay, there's this guy that I met, and he matches the energy that you're looking for. I don't think that he's your type. I'm not sure if he's ready, but date his energy. Go out and see what it's like to be with someone who's drama-free, who is interesting, who's going to take you on a real date. And I gave her and the guy each other's numbers. Within 2 days, they went away for a weekend. And now here's what's funny. They didn't end up together. Afterwards, I spoke to both of them. I told them both to do the same thing, dating the energy. The guy was like, oh, well, this went wrong. His recap, he didn't date her energy. He thought about what he specifically wanted in all this criteria because he doesn't really know what he wants. But the girl, she really knew what she wanted. And she said, okay, when I was with him, I liked that he came to pick me up from the airport. I liked that he planned everything. And she talked about all the energetic things that felt good. 2 weeks later, she meets her boyfriend, who she believes is the love of her life. And I keep getting recaps about how good they're doing. So when you actually think about how you want to feel and you take a chance with people for the energy, not just all the check marks, then what'll happen is you'll get rewarded because you'll magnetize the things that you want. You'll magnetize your energy. Like I said, it either repels or pulls in. So when you are saying to the universe, I'm willing to give a chance to what feels good, then you're pulling in more of what feels good. And then you can shift through and say, I like the way that this one smiles. I like this one has a private jet or, you know, whatever it is. But the main thing is about magnetizing you so you get the options, right, to choose the more mundane things or the smaller physical things that most people sabotage for.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, and I love that you're breaking this down because it kind of reminds me of, you know, just like an energetic frequency match, right? Some of our low-hanging fruits of emotions are kind of like lower frequency emotions. And, you know, and what I'm picking up as you're sharing this, it's like, well, if I'm going to be nitpicky on all of the things that this person didn't do, like your client said, right? Or she could focus on all of the things that they did do to raise her energetic frequency, to raise that energetic vibration, and then to then start attracting more and more of that same frequency into her life, hence this now new boyfriend. Yes. And what's so incredible, because I'm laughing internally as you're sharing this, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like some of my girlfriends who they know all of the things because they've been doing their own work. But when it comes to relationships, and now Brave Table fam, I know you probably have a friend who is doing this too, or maybe it's low-key you, where you're, and this could be in our own, you know, our long-term relationships, like our own spouses and our partners, where, you know, you want them to do the thing, but then you're going to nag at them for not doing what you want them to do. So you're going to keep nagging. I need you didn't do the dishes today. You didn't do it. And then that low vibration is like that low hanging fruit. Cause that frustration it's an easy one. You could pick that off the tree. That's an easy one to go elevate yourself to say, okay, what did they do well? that's tough. And so when we're praising people for what they did well instead of calling them out, I wonder how that then attracts more of what we actually want, which is just love at the end of the day.
Definitely. And the thing to think about is that a frequency is not a straight line. So it's not so much about matching a frequency, right? This is why two opposite people can be the perfect couple.
Okay.
Because you have a height, the frequency, it's a wave that goes up and down, kind of like a line when you see the lines in the medical shows where it's showing the heartbeat going up and down.
The EKG. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I mean,
Doctor. So what happens is it's about harmonizing the frequencies. They don't have to be exactly the same, but the highs and the lows need to match so that in the middle, that's when it feels like there's this straight line going through because they're harmonized. Now, when two people's frequencies are in harmony, they amplify and they grow. And this is where that effect happens, where you meet someone and you become a better version of yourself. All of a sudden, you're like, is the cashier nicer? Or, you see this ripple effect in your life. This is even with friends, with anyone, when the energy harmonizes. Now, when you're focusing on the negative thing, then you take your energy out of harmony because then you're lowering where your wave is. And then once the frequencies are fighting each other and they're not in harmony, then they actually start to cancel each other out. And then they have this anti-magnetism thing that happens. And there's some couples that you meet and it's just like you don't like to be around them. They demagnetize each other. Or like you'll see the person when they're by themselves and then they go next to the person who they're in a relationship with and you're like, what happened to you? Your personality died. And it's because they're not harmonizing with their frequencies. So it's not saying like, oh, everything's perfect in my relationship, but it's caring enough to keep it up to that higher level of the wave. Right. If both of you are trying to maintain that higher level, then you will continue to harmonize with each other. And then you'll create this beautiful harmony that just, it feels good.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so juicy. Okay, so let me recap. So the first thing that we need is we need to date energy.
Yes, definitely. Date energy, not looks, not job profession, not anything. What you'll learn is dating the energy. There's certain professions, there's certain looks that people have that will affect their energy. So naturally, when you date the energy, you'll start to get all those other things.
Mm-hmm. So date the energy first. And then the second is harmony.
Yeah.
So you want to be, you want to have that harmony in the person or in the relationship or how you're walking towards what you want more of, meaning amplify more of the things that you enjoy in that person. Yes. And I think these are such a great reframe because, and my next question goes into, because if you're going to replace all of these like matchmaking shows.
No replacing. What I am, like I tell people, it's so funny because there are sometimes I've had to turn away a lot of clients because they come to me before they do the work. I help you magnify what is there. Once you come to me and you say, okay, I'll help you with understanding little tweaks. But if there's a lot of things going on inside of you where you have trauma that is so deep within you, I think there's specialists that are perfect to help you with that. And I just help you pull in, amplify, and magnetize. So I'm an add-on.
You're an add-on.
Yes. All these relationship coaches, when they have a client and they're like, this person is a catch, but they're not catching anyone, that right there is an energy problem.
So you help magnetize the energy.
Yes.
You help turn on.
I turn up.
You turn up.
We turn on, we turn up.
You turn up. I love that you're sharing that because, it's so unique from, and we've had so many guests talk around relationships. What you're referring to is as the goddess queen of energy, the way you work with people is, all right, you're assessing their energy. Mm-hmm. And if the energy is off or they haven't done any work, or maybe they're not knowing that they need to do the work or have the awareness of it, you're there to amplify.
Yes, exactly. Like I love that there are coaches. I started a WhatsApp group with some people in it, and I've been putting relationship experts and coaches inside of it to answer questions in real time. And because for me, I'm so much energy. You know how I talked about that charge of energy? There's still that little kid in me that gets so excited. And if someone's not ready to hear something, I put the energy into it and it's a fry. And they're like, oh, shoot, I don't know. So instead, I like when people work with experts and they work with relationship coaches. They work with therapists or they read books. They find out how to say that sucked.
Now what?
Right? I'm the now what part.
You're the now what?
Yes. Once they get to now what, then I say, okay, let's turn up the energy. Let's start bringing in people. So you have options. You feel desired. And then you know how to choose what you want because now you believe in more abundance as well. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the abundance, the magnetism, it comes both hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why you're always radiating. So, and I want to kind of get into, this is kind of one of the chapters in the book of understanding heartbreak. And I know you talk about like the emotional impact and how to repurpose emotional pain. I actually love the whole structure. Can you take us through, for somebody as maybe who's like fresh and raw in their heartbreak or, you know, their divorce after 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we get people who write in what they're braving through. What can we share? What kind of advice can you give to them? Because I know everyone's going to need to get this book and we'll link it in the show notes for sure. But what's something that they could actually do perhaps even today after they listen to this?
I think first, so it's a bit untraditional, but I say sit on the floor, cross your legs, turn out the lights, and just allow yourself to embrace the feeling. I think you might be surprised depending on if the relationship, like if you secretly wanted to get out of it and didn't admit it before out loud, maybe you'll laugh, maybe you'll cry, maybe you'll curse them out, maybe you'll scream. But I think sitting in it is the most beautiful thing because when we deal with heartbreak, we become so afraid of the emotion and the veil of being able to like program our minds and our subconscious, it becomes so thin at that moment. This is why so many amazing things, whether good or bad, happen right after a big breakup or when your heart is just crushed, because suddenly the imprints, the frequencies that you're giving out are stronger and clear. You know, like I remember one girl, she said, I will never feel like this again. And I say, wait a minute, let's think. That's very strong and it will imprint in your subconscious. Be more specific. Let's understand. I will never not prioritize feeling good again. Right? So it's the reframe when you're in the middle of that heartbreak. While you're sitting there, you're crying, you're getting it all out. You admit, okay, this really hurts. What about it hurts? Is it that I didn't show up as my authentic self? Is it that I was a pushover? Was it that I took the person for granted? When you understand that, then you reframe it and say, okay, now from here, I want to appreciate my person more. I want to, when I notice that they're not like calling me, or if I notice that they're not making me feel good, I want to walk away. And that's what you do. So just sit there by yourself. Don't call a friend. Don't call family. Just sit and embrace whatever that emotion is trying to teach you and tell you about your life.
So often it's like we try to do so many things to shove it under a rug or make it go away, make the pain stop, make it hurt less. And so it's easy to swipe and go on those apps.
I have something to say about that.
Come on, Adora.
Okay.
Come on. It's
okay,
like,
so with the apps.
It's like the swipe. Come on,
my
that's dopamine.
Oh,
and so if I'm feeling really shitty, you know, you just,
oh my goodness.
You just, and I remember myself in those really low moments. And I felt like I wish I had somebody like you to turn up and amplify being that energy queen. Actually, you probably wouldn't have worked with me in my low. Would you have?
No, we probably would have been friends, and I would have, like what I've done with some people that I know, you would have gotten that kind of like love where you're like, I had one friend come to me, she's like, I'm so hurt and I'm heartbroken and I'm distraught. I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, big deal. What do you want? And she's like, but you don't understand. I do understand. This is why I'm asking, what do you want? So I have a very difficult time pitying people like you. Like, life has thrown me through some curveballs, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like, we need to move past this. I understand energy on a level now where I'm like, you know what? Whatever I went through, it's not worth bringing that into my future. It's not worth getting more of that. So with the apps, it's just like being out in person. I tell people, when your energy is effed up, stay off the apps, because it will just amplify you getting more and more of what doesn't feel good. You know, like, it's so superficial where you're saying, okay, these are my standards. He has to be this height. They have to be this or they have to be that. And you're not actually thinking about how they make you feel. But here's the other thing. If energetically you have adjusted yourself and you're magnetized to what resonates really well with your soul, and you're ready to have standards for someone who fits within your life and amplifies you, then swiping can actually be a good thing, because then you're not just looking at the picture, but you're feeling the energy through the screen. And then you have the magic swipe, because there are some people who find their soulmates and their life partners with those apps, but only when their energy is adjusted first. So if your energy has been bringing you things that you don't like, especially right after a breakup, stay away from the apps and learn how to pull in people from the energy that you have as you're working on it. And then, I think meeting someone in person is always way more interesting anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And and it kind of brings me to, because for somebody like you who has such a huge, like, energetic ball of light that is radiating, there had to have been some crazy obstacles and depths of fire you had to go through to be sitting where you are today. And I would love for you to unpack that.
Oh my goodness. I think the amount of tragedy, they say whenever you meet someone who's kind or who smiles a lot, that it took a lot of tragedy in order to bring that out of them. And I think, like, I grew up with a single mother. She was in a homeless shelter until I was 3 years old. She had me very, very young as a teenage girl. And she was so afraid of me becoming a pregnant teen that she just, like, she sheltered me so much. And she, like, the body became this thing of this evil vessel to do the devil's work. And, there was just all of these things. So emotionally, I felt very suppressed. I felt suppressed to share my emotions. I felt suppressed to be feminine, to be in my body, not just because of her, but because of the teachings and things that she went through. So that was like one thing. And then I've had situations of heartbreak. I remember my first love, you meet your first love. And for me, maybe it was early, it was middle school. And, we held hands and we dated and we grew up together. And then we became intimate and physical. And I will never forget the day that I get a phone call from the other girl that he met during our little break, our pause, when I went away for the summer, telling me that she was pregnant and that he was in love with me and told her that she couldn't have the baby. And there was just all this drama. And of course, like teenagers do, you call the person on the three-way, and he comes on the phone not knowing that I was on the phone, and speaks to her and is calling her B words and all kinds of things out of her name, saying she better not call me. And I remember in that moment, I think I grew up and I started really having standards and understanding what energy was, because I couldn't be with him, not so much because of what he did on our pause, but because energetically I realized that the person he was being to her wasn't aligned with the values that I saw for myself and with the kind of guy that I wanted to be with. Mm-hmm. So very early on, I dealt with that heartbreak that just, like, I mean, when you're that young, when you're in your early teens and you're with someone for 4 years and it ends like that and everyone is saying things, it really, really hurts. And I've just been in a lot of different long-term relationships that didn't necessarily, most relationships don't end in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to pull you away. And each time I've found myself resetting my energy and opening up and learning again. And each time it gets better and better and better. And learning how much the impact that I've had on others has been the most fulfilling thing for me. So yeah, how I've come to be here is by going through certain tragedies. I don't want to get into everything, but like I've almost died. I spent 3 months in a hospital. I spent some time in a wheelchair. There's so many different things that have happened in my life.
Wow.
But right now, I feel so much love and so much appreciation for every breath that I feel. And when I see someone who can feel this kind of love and share it with a partner, it just makes me feel like I'm living more than one life. I'm living again and again and again. Yeah.
Wow. And what is it that you would like for the person who picks up this book, Love Resolutions, Strategies to Turn Heartbreak into Fulfilling Romance, for the new year?
I would like them to be excited to do the work that counts. You know, I think we look for these quick fixes, and the book is intimidating. It can be misleading because it's so small, it's so thin. I just wanted to put the most important practices to get you going right away, because magnetism is so important. I don't want you sitting at home and just being sad. Yes, I said sit in the dark with your legs crossed and let yourself cry. But the next morning, get up, meet someone, flirt, go to a coffee shop, go on a date. You know, it's yes and. So when you pick up this book, I want you to have the open mind that sometimes the littlest things can have the biggest impact in your energy shift. And just be open and excited to see what possibilities can exist for your life.
Oh, it's huge. It's so huge. I feel like we can keep going and going and going. And before I get into our igniting round, I know that people are going to be running to try to get to work with you. So how do you actually work with people?
So right now, for a while I only work with people word of mouth, because I was still feeling into the gift of some of what I do is I'm able to read energy very well, so I can understand where a person's energy level is,
and even on Zoom,
activate it. Yeah, I've done Zoom. If you could hear some of the messages I've gotten where it's like, oh my goodness, Adora, that activation thing worked. Oh my goodness, I have 3 guys coming after me. I went from no one to, so it definitely still works on Zoom. In order to work with me, I'm on social channels. I have a website, iloveadora.com.
I love it. I love it. We're going to put it in the show notes. And you're gifting people a free 15-minute activation for our audience?
Yes. For your audience, I'm gifting a 15-minute activation. Because I don't know how much work people have done already, I will activate an item or something so that they can use it to help them so that they can become more magnetic until they're ready to activate themselves. Like a full activation, you will get more people coming after you for romantic love. You will have more prospects. So you need to be very clear on what you want because they will show up.
Awesome. So, and we'll link that in the show notes, and the code will be BRAVE.
Yes.
So
yes.
Make sure you use that code for your 15-minute free activation. That is very generous, Adora.
Yes.
You're going to have a ton of people running your way. And so I just think that you are probably the epitome of somebody that just radiates and exudes pure love and joy. I mean, you're on brand, obviously, wearing red and purple and mauve and pink. And I think that, how you show up is just a true reflection of where your heart is. So we're so excited to have you here on the Brave Table. But let's get into the juicy. Let's get into it. So what are you braving at this stage?
Right now I am braving. I mean, there's so many different things. Even with activating people, this is a very brave move for me, because in order to make sure that my own energy doesn't interfere with the energy that I'm helping magnify in others, I have had to change how I eat, how I sleep, how I think. The amount of inner work that I have to do has increased because I want to make sure that anything that I give out is pure, and I want to make sure that it's resistance free. It was a bit by chance that I've even found out that I have this kind of power, where I had people coming to me saying, I met my soulmate because of you. Or like people that I was friends with in high school are married to the guy that they met when they were with me. And then even it works, even actually the activations have worked even faster for men, which is also an interesting thing because I think that they wait until they're more ready.
Right. To take action.
Yeah. Men will wait they'll wait years and then they're like, I'm ready. Boop. Like this. Women, we jump in. This is the only area where I think that women jump in before they're ready is with love. But yeah, so I'm braving, number one, activating people and trusting that it's not about me. It's not a power that I have. I'm just seeing the energy that they have, and I'm magnifying it, and I'm helping expand something that already exists and that's there. I'm braving being open to new possibilities. Like I live in Milan, Italy right now, and I'm curious what the next chapter of life is. I'm braving reaching out, collaborating with people, and being open about what it is that I do. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What are some practices that are elevating you right now? Could be books and rituals, dance practices,
so
meditations.
Yeah, some of the things that I've been doing actually, I did a Vipassana retreat. I don't know if you know what that is.
Of course.
Okay,
of course.
so
whoa, you did a Vipassana retreat?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What?
Believe it or not, I love Vipassana. Vipassana is 10 days of complete silence. You can't write, you can't watch TV, you can't do anything. You just sit.
You're sitting for, and how long?
You sit, you meditate like 12 hours a day.
Oof.
So as someone,
how early do you start?
You started, I think, like 5 a.m. or something. I was in a trance during the whole time. It's when I realized there so many beautiful moments happened for me in Vipassana because
which one did you do?
I went in the UK.
Okay.
So
dreary and
I was supposed to go I was going to go on a vacation, and then you've been taken off the wait list for Vipassana, and I was like, I'm going, let's go. And I show up there, like I had to buy special pajamas because they said that you couldn't wear anything too bright or flashy. And I looked at my wardrobe and I was like, glitter here, sparkles there. So like most people don't have to prepare for Vipassana. I had to prepare for Vipassana. Like I'm in the supermarket trying to buy the like most dull looking thing I could find. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And no one believed that I could sit in silence that long. I talk so much. I love not speaking. Like, as I said, like I grew up so with the family with so many siblings. If I didn't speak, no one knew I was there. And then when I was home with a single mother who was really young, working 2 full-time jobs, and she wound up going to school in order to get her bachelor's, then I had to speak up to say, hey, like I exist, so I've just been in this habit of talking so much. And Vipassana gave me the chance to just turn my energy inward. It wasn't about sharing it with anyone. It wasn't about healing anyone or doing anything. It was just existing and recognizing that everything that I had been through, like I was no longer in survival mode. I was finally in the mode of sitting and how do I thrive from here on? That's where I'm being brave. I moved from surviving to existing, and this phase of my life is how do I thrive? How does my thriving also ignite other people to thrive? And so that 10 days of silence was amazing, and it taught me how to just listen to my body. to hear what is it saying. Before you feel the emotion, there's a trigger sensation in the body. And this is actually what has been helping me so much. I've been sitting and just listening to my body and hearing the messages. And it's becoming more clear. Like, I feel like I'm getting full thoughts of what to do, actions to take, and how to handle situations. So I do that, as well as I do some rituals. I have like my little altar at home where I have things that mean something to me. And I sit there with my candles and I, just go within. And I've been eating more clean, getting away from the sugar.
I feel like when we're clearing our vessel and cleaning our vessel and honoring our body and honoring everything that we want to kind of create in the world, we just magnify everything tenfold. And I feel like that's your direct representation of that. So last word as we close it out, what is your word for this year?
My word for this year is kinetic. Kinetic is, was I only supposed to say the word?
No. Yeah. Go
Okay. Yeah. So before I used to complain and say, I'm so much potential. Everyone says I'm potential. I want to be kinetic. I'm a bit of a physics nerd, if you haven't noticed. But I feel like I have kinetic energy. I am kinetic energy, which is basically motion. My energy is moving, it's spreading, it's evolving, and it's igniting.
Oof. I love that. Adora Aiza, thank you so much for being here on the Brave Table. Everyone, get Love Resolutions 2024. It's out on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. I have a copy right over here as well. And until next time on the Brave Table.
And don't complain about your family members or your friends not supporting you. It's not their job. Find the communities that can support and stop telling yourself that somebody did this to me. Whatever happened to you in the past may not be your fault, but it's definitely your responsibility to change it now.